Welcome to the United States.
This is the face of Homeland Security that Americans know well. Day after day, thousands of dedicated men and women doing what needs to be done to protect our country against those who would harm us. This, too, is the face of Homeland Security. Thousands of hard-working people employed by hundreds of private companies, every day providing essential services to the transportation industry and a wall of protection against some very dangerous enemies. These enemies are tiny, some too tiny to see. They are foreign insects and microorganisms, and they are concealed in the leftover food, food packaging, dirty dishes, rejected cargo, and discarded carry-on items left aboard the thousands of ships and planes that arrive in this country every day. Despite their small size, these invaders pose a huge threat. If allowed to enter our country, they could easily infest crops and livestock, spread quickly, and inflict widespread damage on our nation's agriculture, environment, and economy. This makes collecting, isolating, and disposing of foreign garbage a critical job. It's a job that requires vigilance, consistent procedures, the right equipment, and a daily commitment to making sure that foreign pests and diseases get no free ride into the United States. Many pests and diseases that plague agriculture in other parts of the world are virtually unknown here in the United States. This is not the result of good luck, but of a lot of hard work on the part of both government and private companies. For more than 100 years, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has been developing and enforcing agricultural regulations to prevent harmful insects and microorganisms from entering the country. Today, APHIS, USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, heads this effort, in partnership with U.S. Customs and Border Protection, an agency of the Department of Homeland Security. But much of the day-to-day work of applying those regulations to protect America lies with hundreds of private firms, compliance agreement holders, who have committed to disposing of what is known as regulated garbage, in strict accordance with USDA regulations. The regulations are specific and cover every aspect of handling and disposing of potentially hazardous garbage. Yet the responsibilities involved are handled in different ways in different settings. At large airports and seaports, for example, the various tasks are often divided among contractors. Caterers are responsible for removing all regulated garbage from galleys. Cleaners are responsible for cabins and cargo areas. Truckers or water taxis do the hauling. Processors do the sterilization or incineration. Yet there are endless variations on this arrangement. Some caterers do their own sterilization. Some processors offer hauling services. And at many private ports and airports, fixed base operators, FBOs, handle everything from collecting garbage to rendering it harmless. Regardless of the role you or your company plays, your objective is the same: strictly follow all regulations and procedures all the time. A single lapse, such as failing to properly seal a garbage container or failing to adequately clean up a spill, can cost you your job, cost your company a fine of up to $250,000, and even result in prosecution and jail time. The best way to understand the regulations and procedures involved is to see how experienced compliance agreement holders and their employees do their jobs. This international flight has just arrived. The passengers and crew have deplaned, and the catering crew is coming aboard to clear the galley. In accordance with regulations, they remove all equipment containing leftover food, unused meals, dishes, and utensils, food wrappings, even flowers, which can easily harbor pests. And before removing anything from the plane, they close and securely latch all portable food stowage containers and seal everything stripped from the galley in leak-proof containers that are clearly designated as containing regulated garbage. Their objective is to ensure that all regulated garbage is completely isolated from the environment. Meanwhile, the crew responsible for cleaning the passenger cabin has started work. They remove all food and items that have been in contact with food as regulated garbage. Often, cleaners will give any regulated garbage to the caterers to handle, since caterers specialize in handling food and food-related waste. In this case, the caterers have finished their work before the cleaners. So, under their own compliance agreement, the cleaners bag their regulated garbage and dispose of it according to approved procedures. Recycling is important economically and environmentally, and APHIS policies list specific procedures for recycling aluminum, glass, and plastic containers, as well as cardboard and paper. Only containers that have never held dairy products and have been kept separate from garbage may be recycled. Containers that have been in contact with dairy products or commingled with food waste must be incinerated or sterilized. Cardboard and paper must be clean, free of any animal material, and kept separate from food waste. Meat containers may not be recycled. All cardboard and paper for recycling must be baled. For ships, the procedures for handling regulated garbage follow the same rules. All regulated material is sealed in 4mm bags or clearly labeled leak-proof containers, which are stored prior to removal in a secure, easily identified area within the ship's rails. Offloading hazardous garbage must be done carefully to avoid damaging the bags or containers and exposing the garbage to the environment. On shore, the refuse is placed in a secure dumpster clearly labeled as approved by USDA for transport of regulated garbage. In addition to passenger areas, cargo areas aboard both planes and ships also require cleaning. This may involve removing and destroying shipments of plant material that cannot pass agricultural inspection. In cases where animals have been transported, cleaning personnel must follow regulations for collecting and isolating bedding and animal waste and disinfecting surfaces to ensure that all harmful microorganisms are destroyed. Disinfecting is also essential in dealing with spills. No matter how careful people are, accidents do happen. The important thing is to make sure that an accident does not allow pests or microorganisms to escape into the environment. Always be prepared to deal with spills. Have on hand plenty of regulation weight plastic bags, USDA approved disinfectants, and all the tools you need to do a thorough cleanup, including whatever personal protection equipment such as gloves, masks, and eye protection are required by your company and OSHA and EPA regulations. Always follow the disinfectant manufacturer's material data safety sheet requirements. The first priority is to contain the spill. If a bag has torn, seal it in a second bag. If a cover has come loose, secure it. Bag any spilled garbage. Clean and then disinfect the spill area with the proper solution of an approved disinfectant. Rinse the area thoroughly to remove the disinfectant. Then, and this is especially important, document the spill in your spill log and report it to your local DHS Customs and Border Protection or USDA Plant Protection and Quarantine office. This allows qualified personnel to make a follow-up inspection to assure that there is no potential for contamination. Your spill log must be kept for 3 years from the date of the spill. Once regulated garbage is removed from a plane or ship, it has to be transported safely to where it can be sterilized or incinerated. For catering companies that have in-house sterilization facilities, this can mean hauling it just a short distance. But many ports and airports contract with independent processing facilities and rely on hauling companies to move regulated garbage, sometimes considerable distances by land or water. No matter how far the garbage must travel, it must be transported in leak-proof containers and in vehicles approved for this purpose. Overland hauling has specific requirements. Only trucks with enclosed beds may haul regulated garbage. No open or tarp-covered trucks qualify. The route between the pickup point and the processing facility should be as direct as possible. And because rural areas with their crops and livestock are especially susceptible to agricultural threats, a route through developed areas is better than one through the countryside. If restricted garbage must be hauled through rural areas, it must be sealed in containers that are rigid as well as covered and leak-proof. Otherwise, it must be enclosed in 4 mil bags in closed containers. For routes through urban areas, compactors and dumpsters can both provide adequate containment as long as they are used exclusively for regulated garbage and their lids and hydraulic mechanisms form a satisfactory seal. In all cases, containers used to haul regulated garbage must be clearly labeled international or regulated garbage, or have other approved identification. Always be prepared for the unexpected. Carry sufficient bags, tools, and approved disinfectants to deal with spills. Know how to safely clean up and disinfect spill areas. And remember to report to your CBP office not only spills, but also any traffic accidents or truck breakdowns. All such incidents require a follow-up to make sure that no environmental contamination results. At the garbage treatment site, the driver or water taxi operator must notify plant personnel that the load being delivered is regulated garbage and must follow their directions as to where to offload it. Once clear of the facility, it's the hauler's responsibility to wash and disinfect whatever containers were used, as directed by the local CBP office. All regulated materials removed from an international flight must be sterilized or incinerated. This means sanitizing all catering equipment, from stowage containers and food preparation utensils to dishes. And it means sterilizing or incinerating all regulated garbage and plant and animal materials. Some companies and facilities that service both international and domestic carriers treat all incoming equipment and refuse the same way. They sanitize all equipment and food service items and treat all garbage as regulated. This eliminates the need for maintaining separate areas and following separate procedures. It also avoids errors and possible cross-contamination. However, treating everything as regulated can be costly. So, many companies keep international catering equipment and regulated garbage separate and treat them differently. If this is the case with your company, the most important rule is to isolate all international equipment and refuse in their own secure area. The area should be clearly identified as containing only regulated material, and posters specifying the procedures for its proper handling should be present. All international catering equipment should be labeled as such. And all regulated garbage must be stored in clearly marked covered bins or containers. These containers must be used only to store and move regulated garbage. Any domestic garbage placed in them, even temporarily, must be treated as regulated to prevent contamination. Garbage cleaned from the dishes and equipment from an international flight must be treated as regulated. This means either grinding it in a garbage disposal that feeds into an approved sewage system, or scraping it into approved bags or trash containers, which are then stored in the regulated garbage area. When a spill happens inside a facility, the required procedure is the same as for a spill outside. Rebag the garbage. Clean the affected area with an EPA-approved disinfectant. Then flush away the disinfectant and any remaining debris. Reusable equipment such as dishes, silverware, trays, and containers are washed and sanitized using hot water and detergent. Once cleaned, they should be moved to the food preparation area to avoid any possibility of recontamination. When it comes to disposing of regulated garbage, there are several options. This caterer has an in-house sterilizer. A sterilizer uses a combination of high temperature and high pressure to destroy microorganisms and pests. For each load of garbage processed, the time and temperature of the treatment is recorded. The internal temperature at the center of each load must be maintained at a minimum of 212 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature of boiling water, for at least 30 minutes. All records related to handling and processing foreign garbage should be kept for at least 1 year. After treatment, the garbage is no longer considered regulated and can be disposed of in a landfill. Cookers are essentially large pots used to heat treat regulated garbage. Unlike sterilizers, cookers are not pressurized. They rely on heat alone, again 212 degrees Fahrenheit, for 30 minutes or more to eliminate biohazards. Properly cooked garbage also can be disposed of in landfills. The most common disposal method is incineration. By regulation, all that can remain after incineration are ash, glass, and metals, which can be retrieved and disposed of separately. Because incineration reduces all biological material garbage to ash, it not only eliminates pests and diseases, but also minimizes the load on landfills. The sterilizer, cooker, and incinerator we've seen are operated on-site by companies who provide catering and cleaning services. But there are other options. Many companies offer off-site sterilization and incineration services, and caterers and cleaning companies send their regulated garbage to them for processing. These are usually large-scale facilities, and because they receive potentially hazardous materials in large volume and from many sources, their operations are regulated by specific rules and procedures. Incineration and sterilization companies must certify that regulated garbage will be treated quickly upon delivery. Each delivery must be weighed and its source recorded.
You might roll off coming up with international waste.
Then it must be unloaded immediately, either into the incinerator or the incinerator pit for temporary storage. In some areas, regulated garbage is incinerated to produce energy. Waste energy facilities like this one burn refuse of all types to turn into electricity. When handling regulated garbage, they must conform to the same APHIS regulations as other compliant incinerator operations. Although expensive to build, plants like this are very efficient and will likely become more common as space in landfills dwindles and the country's energy needs increase. We are all asked to remain alert to threats against our country and to do our part to support the government's security efforts. But few Americans have the opportunity every day to make a real and important contribution to Homeland Security. Compliance agreement holders and their employees do. Your commitment to consistently following APHIS regulations and procedures is our nation's first line of defense against agricultural threats, and our best assurance that even the tiniest enemies get no free ride. For more information, please visit these USDA and CBP websites, or contact your local USDA PPQ or DHS CBP office.